The Golf Biz with Mikey D, Drew, and the crew. Management, marketing, myths, and morons. Hope we make you smile.
Welcome to the Golf Biz. I'm Joe Dahlstrom with Mikey D, Drew, and the crew, where our one and only goal is to make you smile as we share our stories of owning, operating, and marketing golf courses all over America. Welcome, Drew.
What's up, Joe? We've got Mikey.
Glad to be here. Another beautiful day, fellas.
Absolutely. So before we get started on this amazing episode called The Golf World is Changing, but Will the Golf Business? Let's start with our birdies and bogeys. Mikey, you're up first, bro.
Yeah. Well, we have a thing out here called Tasty Treat Tuesdays, where every Tuesday we try to get out somewhere uber nice and exclusive. Just so happens this Tuesday on the roster was Seminole Golf Club, and this was just weeks after the Walker Cup. So it was spectacular. It's the 11th most exclusive golf club in all of America. Very hard to get on, and it was awesome. And number 17 along the ocean coastline, you know, the guys, the top amateurs in the world had a very difficult time on number 17. I almost holed out for a hole-in-one, made a deuce. So I think next year I'm ready for the Walker Cup, or every 2 years, whenever it is. So let's go.
Absolutely.
Bogey of the week, which will be fun because it's going to roll into it, and maybe even a birdie, honestly. It was kind of cool. But Paige Sporanic's rant on her podcast on the May 25th edition episode was pretty awesome. She did say that the Pro DeChambeau video, which launched just a couple of weeks ago before the PGA, put her in a fit of rage. It was pretty cool. Yeah. So her rant would maybe bogey turn birdie, but we'll see, dude. But that'll be a great little prelude to today's episode.
Absolutely. So it's safe to say Paige Sporanic will not be going to prom with Mikey D.
I take it not, but hey.
I think he lost that chance.
Yeah. Cool. Drew, birdie and bogey.
Birdie, man, we just had the Legacy Cup at Dobson, and it was super awesome. I think we ended up with 27 or 28 teams. It was benefiting the JGAA, so a bunch of junior golfers. We raised a ton of money for them, and we donated all the golf from Dobson Ranch. We had a huge raffle, golf cart, a bunch of cool things, and every team got one of the top juniors in the state. Which was cool. And it wasn't just like all kids graduating high school going to college. I mean, our team, we had a 12-year-old, and she made almost a natural eagle on number 1, which is a par 5 at Dobson. She just lit it up, and all the juniors were playing great. It was good conditions, fun time for everybody. And bogey is going to be that summer is definitely here. We haven't even touched the hundreds yet, and people are starting. I think it's just going to be a week or two till they acclimate. But I mean, you know, we're ready for the summer. We're going to have a bunch of fun giveaways going and do a lot of contests, do what we can to keep everybody engaged. But I have a feeling this summer will be much different than last.
Absolutely. The dog days of summer are coming out here in AZ, but that's why I leave town, so that's cool.
Yeah, I'll be here. Don't worry.
Yeah, exactly. We'll send you a postcard, Drew.
Yes.
So my birdie is partly the Legacy Cup, too. It was an amazing time. Raised $45,000 for a great cause with the JGAA. And also the Pops and Junior, our junior foundation, is going to be getting a $5,000 scholarship in our father's name and Hub Goyen's father. So kids can get scholarship in their name, which is very cool. The bogey probably is that we played the Pro-Am a couple weeks ago. On the first hole of it, I smashed one out of the gunch. Tore some tendons in my hand, so I think my golf career is at least actually on pause. This is like the new word, right?
Yeah.
For a significant amount of time. It's really not that big of a deal, but, I don't have many hobbies or friends, so, you take the golf out of it.
Well, I'm sure after the first day, the contest we did with who could slide across the Airbnb's floor the furthest in their socks when you ate it and caught yourself, I'm sure that didn't help your wrist either. I'm surprised you're not in a cast.
I know, that is true. But I did hit the nice shot into at Mark, you know what I mean, which was cool too. So that was good.
Yeah, smashed him with a ping pong ball.
But we finished 5th, just for the record.
You did.
Drew's team finished a little bit behind.
Probably, did we get last?
I think pretty close. Yeah.
If we didn't, man, I really feel bad for that team.
Yeah, no doubt. Cool. So anyway, let's get started here. This episode is The Golf World is Changing, but will the golf business?
And this one's a part one.
This is a part one
of two.
Exactly.
Stay tuned.
Exactly. Part two is going to be what the golf business should do to go ahead and leverage all the things that are happening right now.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about, the golf business side of it and not as much about the golf world because there's a lot of talk and chatter about the golf world. But, just doing some recent reflecting of how the golf world has changed, right? I'm older than you guys. But just thinking back, you have this Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka, spat, this Twitter war. And it's, you never heard about Jack Nicklaus and Lee Trevino talking trash and doing all this stuff. And, maybe they did, but they did it over a cocktail face-to-face, right? Mm-hmm. Now you have these people that have, millions and millions of followers that are just bashing people back and forth, right?
Yeah. No, it's like live entertainment, You don't even need TV anymore for it.
No, I know. And, the thing that I found really amazing, and I think it might play into the pandemic of actually kind of helping lead more people to golf, right?
Yeah.
Because there was nothing else to do. But it's amazing at the response that, and even like the Paige Baranek thing, which we'll talk about, and the good guys, which we had on the show. I've actually just looked a lot now on social media and just like Google and actually search a lot of golf terms and golf influencers. I guess a new proper term is content creators. I mean, this stuff is wild. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not just nerds. You know what I mean? These kids might even be good at other stuff. You know? So, I mean, you could see that and people that aren't even really into golf are following these pages. They're commenting and doing it. And, Drew, you recently got into golf kind of, in the golf world and the golf business. But, I mean, it kind of runs parallel to other sports, right?
Yeah, I mean, other sports or even just other businesses. Like, it's funny you said other sports, but even in something people don't consider a sport, right? There's this big boom in a completely different realm that's esports, right? And if you said 4 years ago that a kid could make a living playing video games, potentially get a scholarship to go to school for it, there was college teams, and that there was like professional series and circuits. I mean, what we were talking, didn't one of the arenas in Vegas just
Luxor
completely converted to an esports arena?
Yeah.
And people tune in and spend their time watching, Twitch or other streaming services instead of cable TV, right? Just another thing that cable's got to put up with. And then when you talk about other sports, like more traditional, I mean, boxing is one that comes to mind. The MMA and, Dana White and the UFC and all those series have done a really good job over the time staying relevant, probably because it's not so one-dimensional, that type of fighting. And I really don't know a lot about it, but I know if I ever watched fights, it was always UFC. It was never boxing unless there was a massive name attached to it, where now you're getting all these offshoot boxing series. I mean, Floyd Mayweather's going to fight one of the Paul brothers, who he was an influencer. He was a content creator that decided a little while ago to become a boxer and do these show matches. And to me, it just all looks like the WWE. Like Vince McMahon would be proud of all of this, right? All these industries are going that way because part of it, like you said, in the older days of golf, people probably just didn't hear about it unless you were at the events or you were on the tour and you saw it happen in front of you.
Yeah.
But now with technology and the way everything and anything is out there, whether you really want it to be or not, businesses and different types of industries are starting to realize that, hey, you can't avoid it anymore. So we better figure out how to make it work for us. So being able to just promote your own things, start your own brands right from, with really low effort, or there's a low level of entry, high effort in that you got to do it well.
Sure.
But all of these things are changing, and it's cool to see with golf. I remember it was like 3 or 4 years ago, they had the first kind of show match in a long time where it was Tiger and Phil, and they had them mic'd up and they did all these bets and stuff, and it was for charity. Then it grew to be Tiger and Phil again, this time with Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. And now you've got the one that's coming up with DeChambeau and Phil, and they got Aaron Rodgers, and I think Tom Brady's the other one. And those storylines that people are following, and even Brooks throwing shots at that, apologizing to Aaron Rodgers, like, sorry, you got to play with them, things like that. It's, that's what's, like you said, it's drawing people into golf that wouldn't normally have been, because there's an entertainment factor now.
Yeah.
They don't have to know how good these people are at golf. They don't have to know how hard these golf courses is. They just know those two are really good at golf. I know those two from other sports, and it's bringing kind of this cross marketing, right? It's bringing people over, and it's cool.
And I think it's replacing the traditional approach of actually bringing a kid out, giving them a golf club, teaching them, try to teach them how to swing, and actually, keep harping on them to go ahead and just hit a ball into the air and make it all about their progress, right? Rather than getting them to like the game first, to actually find it interesting, to find it cool, right?
Yeah.
And, we're going to talk about operational strategies next week, but it is amazing how it's changed, right? Because Mikey, you're good friends with the good guys. We've played a match. They've been to PBN. They've been to all our properties. You even have the good hat on. But, if you look at a match, and I don't know what the demo is on a Thursday round of golf for the PGA Tour, but when the good guys post a match of them versus another one of them or somebody else at a random golf course, it gets 500,000 views pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I don't think that they do that well in the PGA Tour with that demographic.
Yeah, no, it is crazy. Yeah, just some young guys. And what they've done is they built a community. They obviously had a big following before they all came together. And now that they're all together, they built a community and built up on that, which people love to watch. Because what's so cool about all the hype and all the background, whether it's Brooks and DeChambeau or, Steven versus Garrett and the good guys, it actually forces you to pick a side. I think people actually like that. And so you're either on DeChambeau's side or Brooks' side, but it makes you decide, and choose a side, which is cool. So it's come a long way since the the Shell's wide world of golf, and the skins matches, and the fact that the good guys can actually do this and build a brand and actually sell and make a very, very good living. Whatever they make, I don't know, but actually do great. The Bad Birdie guys, I mean, these guys weren't even influencers before they got started, and now their stuff's flying off the racks. So if you take a look at what's going on out there, what's awesome about it is that you compare golf to bowling, let's say, right? And just between building the hype, getting the corporate money behind it, all the influences and in it, it drew so much money to golf that it's just crazy.
Yeah. Well, you brought up something good about picking a side, right? Mm-hmm. Because, the golf business was always marketed as like, hey, watch who's going to win the trophy and everybody's great, everybody's awesome, right? But you talked about the WWE. Yeah. There was always a villain.
There always
was. Look at the Kardashians. I'm not picking on them. They're brilliant. They're billionaires, right? And there's always a villain, right? And golf never had a villain. And I think the PGA Tour, just in their traditional geek ways, they actually tried to protect it from that, right? They tried to protect their brand and the people from being who they were, right? And the unfortunate truth is some people are just dicks, right?
Right.
It doesn't mean that they're not really, really good players. It doesn't mean that maybe it's just they're competitive, right? If you look at the Brooks Koepka and Bryson DeChambeau, and maybe we're partial only because we have the really cool song, in my opinion, but Brooks Koepka, to me, looks like a dick. You know what I mean? He seems to be pretty arrogant. He seems to be pretty submissive. And that's not taking a swing at a guy like, it's my opinion doesn't matter. And it might be just because he's overly competitive, but he has zero personality and has zero marketability. So in this whole war, he's the biggest benefit, in my opinion, because there's nothing to like about him other than he wins a lot of tournaments.
Well, and I think it was, 2 years ago, around the time that I even paid any attention to golf, Brooks was the, quote unquote meathead of golf. He was the only one who was really working out a lot. It was before Bryson had ballooned and, he was winning a bunch of stuff. And that was like, if you talk to anybody like me that was a fringe golfer, or maybe didn't even care about golf, just liked looking at, who was good at it, Brooks was the name that everybody knew. Yeah. And it's still that way. I mean, the way that he came out and just came out of nowhere, won the Waste Management Open, that kind of competitive. I think he's great. I think they're both awesome. And I think it's hilarious that they're going at it. Because to me, it's like watching two people that I like, seeing who could fight and who's going to come out on top. You know what I mean? So
who wins that fight anyway? Mikey, your opinion. DeChambeau in a cage match.
Yeah.
I would actually say Brooks because he is a heavy like alpha. And I don't see Brooks really giving up until it's over. You know? Yeah,
maybe we can market that, right?
Dude, hey, that'll be the undercard for the Mayweather, Logan, or Jake, whichever brother it is for that
I'm
fight.
going with DeChambeau. I think he used some physics to go ahead and actually do some anaconda moves like the Gracie brothers, whatever. I think he'll get in there. But no, getting back to the thing though, is like Brooks Koepka was great. I mean, he won majors, and now you just really brought up a thought is that he really did a lot of stuff that DeChambeau did. He hit a driver off every hole. He won major championships throwing the heat, right? Yeah. But he never really got, I would call it credit or much momentum on it because in a press conference, he gave 3-word answers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He didn't share his silliness on social media and following, right? And he just was about just winning. You know what I mean? And which he's on the PGA Tour. That's his goal, I guess, right? But
right. Well, and that's the thing is he's probably so hyper, like he just wants to win.
Yeah.
He's competitive, right? I don't know him. I don't know if this is the truth, but that's what I've got to imagine, only because, I've competed in other sports with people, and I'm kind of that way too. I've never been the type of athlete that gets hyped up, needs to listen to music, people slap themselves in the face to get in the zone. I just focus, stay calm, try and keep everything out of my head so I don't overthink things. And that's probably how I look from an outside perspective to a lesser degree. But it reminds me of Marshawn Lynch. He was one of my favorite players even before he went back to the Raiders, but there was that year where he just refused to talk to the press. He just refused. Everybody hated it. The press wanted to fine him. The NFL wanted him to do it, and he just refused to do it. And it was the same thing. He's like, dude, just look at my play. You guys won't let me talk about what I actually want to talk about. I'm not going to bite into your loaded answers. And so I think that that's kind of a cool thing to have in all of sports and sports media is, whether they're really a villain or not. I just like seeing people either go at the press or ignore the press or just rile them up, because the press makes their entire living at trying to get a rise and poke and prod at people, right? So it's just going back and forth. It's again a storyline. We're not even watching for the sports anymore. We're watching for the conflict, for the personal communication and stuff like that, which I think people have finally woken up to, right? And all the tools are there to put that out there. Yeah.
And people gravitate to it. They love it. And like the Brooks Koepka thing, my perception of him is what he appears to be when on TV. He might be the sweetest, nicest guy of all time. I don't know. I'm just talking about a perception and a persona. But then again, it's right before or after he plays golf, which he's passionate. It's his livelihood too. Yeah. So it's maybe his choice to do it. But if you look at other industries too, and this is why I think that when we go into like week 2 of like what the golf business should do, why I think there's so many golf course operators totally missing the mark. Look at the fashion industry, right? They used to rely on Vogue magazine and all that stuff, right? And I'm sure it still has an impact and maybe more on social and stuff like that. But what Kylie Jenner wears, it works, right? And they feast and build on what's happening, and they have such an amazing pulse on their consumers, right? Where I think the golf business as a whole has never really even taken the time to understand the pulse of the community. And I think it's changed now more than ever because the good guys, the hole-in-one trick shot guys, Paige Sporanic's got 3.5 million views. Yeah. You know what I mean? Followers. And she has a podcast. iHeart owns the rights to it. So she's got to be super good at it and have a great following. So, that didn't happen in the past, but I don't see anybody in the golf business really leveraging it. I think we do, but I think we could do more of it now that I'm sitting here. Yeah. But, Mikey, you see it because, to a much smaller scale, and we share it in the operational influencer, but, you've been doing videos, for the last 10, 12 years down at PBN, and you built an amazing brand and following, but, you've seen a massive change in just the consumer behavior down there, right?
Definitely. And this is just over the last year, actually, maybe even less than that, the last 6 months. So it was pretty cool. The good guys, their manager had reached out to me here at PBN, and I didn't even know of the good guys at the time. I knew GM and I knew Kyle Berkshire and those guys just from their Instagrams. But when I went to research and I looked, I was like, oh, wow, all right. And at this time, they really only had maybe, 30, 40, 50,000 views on their stuff. So I said, yeah, of course, we have 3 clubs here in Florida. We'd be happy to set you up at all 3. Let's have some fun. And so they came out and they had a blast. So they actually referenced Mikey D and the Nash a bunch throughout their video. It's the greatest episode ever on the Good channel. Yeah. So I have young guys coming in and being like, dude, you're Mikey D, bro, from the Good video, man. That good match, the one that we had with the Golf Biz and good guys. I mean, I'm talking like hundreds of golfers. And then you guys see it all day long too on your driving range. All the pretty young females out there playing golf, all the young dudes out there playing golf. I mean, they've got to be getting introduced to it from somewhere. And so I got to give Paige Sporanic a giant shout out because she's kind of like the OG with her and Holly Saunders and Blair O'Neill and those ladies who have actually paved a way for these pretty young females to actually have some sort of a platform, because I think they look at it and they say, well, what can we do to like get our name out there, get a little exposure, get a little momentum? And they thought, well, why don't we choose golf, right? Let's choose golf as kind of our platform to get out there, because they look at Paige, she did it. Holly, Blair O'Neill, she did it. So it's really paved a way for a lot of to introduce a lot of young females to the game, which I see out here.
Yeah.
And it's been great.
Yeah, and I think that the golf world and the golf business just always trails behind, because the music industry and fashion, every industry, if you really think about it, has really made a huge mark on social and actually sharing it. And Drew, you talked about it earlier, is that just the accessibility to share your story on social media is amazing. I don't know how to research this, but if you look at how many people on Instagram and Facebook and Snapchat and all that stuff, if you look at how many more people that have, let's say, 10,000 followers or more that are related to golf, and that probably were either a homecoming king or queen, or actually were actually considered cool in high school, I'll guarantee it's skyrocketing.
Yeah, no, and I mean, it's one of those things too, this might be a little bit out in the weeds, but really to talk more about what you said, that whether it's golf or these other industries, the industry and the culture and the storylines themselves all seem to progress, and then the business sides of them, like the golf business or the clothing industry, like clothing businesses and all these things, they can't anticipate, so they have to be reactionary. Everything's always a couple steps behind, and that's just something that's changed, because before social media, like you said, for fashion with Vogue magazine, Vogue was the one controlling who was like what the media was being consumed by consumers, right?
Right.
They were controlling who was seeing what, so they could adjust behind the scenes. They could make all these lines and they could put it in the magazine and have it ready to go. But now, you have these influencers, content creators, people that are really looked up to by their audiences, and they have the free will to pick and choose what they want to do, what they want to endorse, whether it's a formal endorsement, they go to that property, they use that product, whatever it is, and then people have to react to it, right? Businesses have to think, well, how can we make our products more like that? How can we fall in line and kind of piggyback off it, which I think is an interesting dynamic, and it's only going to change more as this info becomes more available.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not going away. We know that, because the days of going back to the old school way isn't good for the golf business anyway. And it's totally not effective. And, if you look at it, Phil Mickelson, after that whole thing started, is, I must admit, after he put the Pro DeChambeau out there, he shared it on his page and stuff. And, it got a fair response, I thought. It was a little bit revealing about, taking sides, right? You know what I mean? And our point and goal in doing everything we do is just to make somebody smile. It was not actually, as Paige Sporanic said, it was a hate crime to your ears. Oh, sorry, Paige, you know what I mean? Little rough there. But I actually I knew who she was, so I actually went and listened to her podcast. And it was interesting, and I'm not hating on her either, and this is not retaliatory, because I give her all the kudos in the world. She had a vision, she had a goal, and she went and accomplished it. She actually uses her ability to play golf. She uses her looks, and she uses her mind to go ahead and actually do what she loves. So I don't hate on her for it. I think that her feedback on the song was totally misguided. I don't think she really gave it much thought. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But the one thing on the podcast that she said, she kept on talking about how she might change her ways and not be so critical, because she said some critical things of Phil, and she says critical things of just about everybody, right? And a lot of the times maybe they're true too, right? But she was talking about how she wanted to change her way. Not that she's going to listen to this or not, but I don't know why she would. You know what? She plays the villain very well, and she plays the hero very well. People have a feeling on her one way or another, and she's built a living on it, and she should keep sharing her opinion as long as it's genuine. And it's also not malicious, you know what I mean? If she really wants to inspire young girls to golf, she should, my advice would be, maybe spend more time doing it, and maybe watch your language a little bit, when you actually, destroy somebody. But I think that whatever you're going to decide, if you're out there and if you're a golf course, which, like I said, that's next episode, Mikey's done a great job at it. You've done a great job, Drew, and all our clubs. We try to build a following in the operational influencer, but that's not just it. I think you have to piggyback on what's happening today and just watch this content, right? I have a hard time even watching a lot of the good stuff because I'm not a true golf enthusiast anymore and I'm busy and stuff, but I admire the crap out of them, what they've done. And you know what, you should see what they do. And it doesn't mean you have to try to duplicate their show, but you should follow and see what the comments are and what people like and don't like.
No, I mean, that's hitting it right on the head, right? It's tough to ever have, you got to be careful that you don't have completely mixed messages because you're fishing, you're trying to build an audience and stuff, because there's always going to be camps, right?
Right.
And even, Garrett and Micah and Matt, when they were on the show, they talked about it here, that you're going to have content you guys think is great. And maybe it was the most fun to produce and you put it out there and it's a total flop with your existing audience. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Because you know what? You learn from it. You say, hey, maybe we just go do that on the weekends with each other because it was so cool to do. But maybe we don't put that out there. Whatever. Because at the end of the day, those kinds of followings, those communities you're building and all this, it is a business, right? And so to just keep a thumb on the pulse of what is working, what's not working, taking the feedback and stuff like that. Because like you said, when, the DeChambeau video got retweeted by different people, I mean, our YouTube comments were all insanely positive.
Yeah.
The other outlets that, was tweeted and somebody said they had no words for it and things like that, that's cool too. He doesn't get it. He doesn't like it. And I wouldn't expect that person's following to come to our defense because they're all like-minded, right? They follow him for his beliefs and thoughts. And so that's what they're going to say. And so it's funny. And I can't imagine how much hatred you get when you have 3.5 million followers,
dude,
right?
I give her credit, the Kardashians and them all, man. You have to have some emotional fortitude because they take the pounding. It doesn't bother me. I know Mikey gets a little sensitive at times, but because he wants everybody to be happy. But Mikey, what Drew said is a good point because I'll be honest, I thought the DeChambeau video was going to go more viral. I thought it was more of a catchy tune. I thought it was, and it performed fair, you know what I mean? But I think that our other videos, it should have been a Tour Pro and me and my Pro V. I mean, they had, probably close to 1 million views if you count them all. And, but it, I don't know what it was. Maybe it was the format, maybe people don't like them. I don't know.
Yeah, you know what? We're going to try again during the U.S. Open. Maybe he just has to go on and win the U.S. Open and it'll blow up, right?
Yeah. But I think, and going back to it all.
But hey, DeChambeau dug it. You know what? Hey, DeChambeau, you know what? We did it for you, babe.
We made him smile, right?
No doubt, exactly.
That's what it is at the core. We don't do them to make millions of views. And really, I think the most successful content
for the record,
creators,
too, just on an organic, intimate level here at the club, I had thousands of remarks of how cool it was, that people actually loved it. It put a smile on their face, how well done it was, how cool it was. They're still singing it. So regardless, I don't really care.
I could really twist the knife and tell him, Mikey, that's just because they're your audience, man. Of course they love you.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, to be fair, and it's, that's what we do it for, right? We do it to make them smile.
Totally.
And I think, the good guys, we keep mentioning them, but they even said it on the episode too, that they do what it is they do to do it. And the success either comes or it doesn't.
Yeah.
And you can't do it with that success in mind, because when you're trying to force things, and Gary Vee says this all the time, don't make content based off what other people are making to try and emulate them and to get the success that they have. Because if it's not really you, if it's not really what they like, anybody can see through it. They can see how forced it is. It's not going to be very good quality no matter how hard you try. And you would just be so much better off to do what it is you want to do, put it out there, and the right people will find it eventually. It might be slow, it might be fast, but who cares, right? Totally. It's on the internet and it's there forever.
And you said it all. We are not content creators with regard to selling teeth whitener or actually being on a Puma commercial. I mean, honestly, you know what I mean? We'd probably do it, but it's not our thing. We own and operate golf courses, and that's our thing. And I think the bottom line of the golf world changing is that it is more focused on entertainment now than anything. Right? It's less about the sport and it's more about entertainment, and that's what the consumer is attractive to. And if you don't buy into that and you don't try to convert as a business owner, you're going to get crushed, and all this boom in the pandemic is going to go by the wayside. But we'll go in detail about that in great detail. So
you know what other sport I think's really hurt, and they're kind of in golf shoes, and they failed to adapt, and this hurts because it was the biggest sport that I played growing up was baseball.
Oh yeah.
It's been a game of tug of war forever. You know, they've tried to address the monotony of baseball by, you know, having the recordings now for close calls and stuff, and it's kind of just divided everybody more. But I think when all the steroids and things were going on, if they had just let players do it, monitored it to make sure it was safe, you get people throwing 115 miles an hour and you get guys hitting 500-foot bombs, that would have been way more exciting. You let the benches clear and you just set some ground rules for what they can and can't do to her. You know, it's like hockey. You get the enforcers. I've never been to a live hockey game, but I would love to watch hockey fights. You know what I mean? It's entertaining.
No doubt. There's no villain in baseball.
Yeah.
There's no real storyline. It's boring. You hit it on the head. You know what? When people are banging, you know, 60, 70 home runs a year, it was exciting. In the NBA, to their credit, you know, before all the recent stuff, they actually did really good too, because they made it all about the alley-oop, dunk, and the three-pointer.
Yeah.
Because if you can't, because, you know, back in the day, we were just talking about this with a fellow Michael Jordan fan, is that back in when he was playing, if, you know, when you went down the middle, you were going to get thumped. You were going to get knocked to the ground. You can't do that in the NBA anymore. You can't actually foul anybody with any aggression. You know, they protect all these players, so it's a dunk contest and a three-point contest, and I think that's why people gravitated to it. You know, through the early to mid 2000s.
Right.
Yeah. Plus, remember Magic versus Bird, MJ versus the Knicks. Man, dude, it was awesome. You know, you look forward to watching it. Now it's like, man, I couldn't even name a player in the NBA, nor do I care. So whatever.
Well, that's based on the pandemic in the last few years, but the ratings for NBA was way higher than it was back then, and from 2008 to 2017. Because it was about, you know, Steph Curry bombing him in, Durant, you know, the dream teams, the villains, you know, everybody hating each other. It was the WWE, Drew. That was a good analogy. You know, players going to just whatever team they felt like going to. They built these teams because you either hated them for it or you loved them for it. And they did a great job branding that during that time period. So, you know, but the golf business, you know, they really have some good characters now. They have, I think it's way more athletic. You know, these people, you know, the Brooks Koepka, I'll guarantee he probably would have been good at any sport. You know, back in the day, that was few and far between. So I think that it's about entertainment, and you better get on board or that train's going to pass you by. And I think golf as a whole, as the business, will lose a ton. If they don't change their ways. So.
Yeah, and a final thought on why I think some of this is so important and why it's so cool that it's happening, right, is because you have people who never would have tuned in to watch golf or whatever, right? Or maybe they've never played golf before, and throughout the pandemic and through a lot of these things, people have gone out and at least swung a golf club at a ball, chunked it, hurt their wrist, saw how terrible it was, sculled everything, whatever it is, right? And so now they at least have the understanding to go on and watch. And it's like you guys said in the DeChambeau video that it does take skill to hit it 400 yards between two greenside bunkers. It's the same thing with baseball. I don't care how big you are, how many steroids you've taken and everything. You still have to put a round bat on a round ball going 100 miles an hour, and you have to make the contact and all that stuff, right? And it gives those people a sense of understanding. I never liked basketball because I was never into it. I couldn't wrap my mind around the coaching and the strategy side. You know what I mean? I knew what a full court press was, and that's about it. Didn't understand setting screens, things like that. So it wasn't entertaining. Where on the flip side, a real niche sport that I've always played is paintball. To me, it's super exciting to watch. To everyone else, they're like, dude, they're just sitting behind these inflatable things, shooting their gun. Why is no one shooting each other? It's taken, you know, because no one gets it. So now as more people get exposed to it, even on the most basic levels, they can go watch these exhibitions like the money matches and skins games and stuff like that. And they can say, oh, wow, like, look, even that guy just hit it into the crap. And then look at the way he punched out. I tried to do it, and I hit a tree and it bounced and broke a window, and I had to run from that guy. You know what I mean? So it gives people just a basic enough understanding now that it'll keep them around. Where before they were like, yeah, no, I hate golf. I went and tried to do it, and it was really hard. And then it's like the guy is talking like this and everybody's clapping like this. And, you know, it wasn't entertaining before. So
no doubt. Too stiff, too arrogant. And we're going to talk about that next week. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to play the Pro DeChambeau song. And you could share us whether you think that Paige Sporanic should be hating on us or not, whether it's a hate crime.
Pro DeChambeau.
The Golf Biz presents Pro DeChambeau, starring Mikey D and Coach Rusty.
Now, I I love it when people think it doesn't take mad skill to hit it 400 yards between two greenside bunkers, because Mikey D is pro DeChambeau.
Paige Sporanic, she just don't know, yo. Takes skill to beat DeChambeau, yep, DeChambeau. Everybody pro DeChambeau. What's the square root of 400 yards? I guess really, really far. Y'all wanna cry, y'all wanna whine. Watches his ball waves on the flyby. Just a flip wedge into a par 5. Build a super Walmart between him and I. Doesn't really seem to be that easy. First tour pro with over 200 ball speed. Sun's out, guns out, ready for launch. Press that ball with some sick deep sauce. Hold up, just wait your turn. BAD's got the honor, so watch and learn. Got the full game with the hat to match. That pretty boy face, don't grow a mustache. Draw first blood like a savage Rambo. What? Nah, that's DeChambeau. Paige Sporanic, she just don't know, yo. Takes skill to beat DeChambeau, yep, DeChambeau. Everybody pro DeChambeau. Now, I love trick shots too, so it's time to hand it over to trick shot aficionado I know is pro DeChambeau, Coach Rusty.
If you want to see a layup, go watch LeBron Beast taking lumber out, putting smashes on. And if you think it's unfair, then call your mom. Pull out the heater for a Berkshire bomb. Leave a comment, hashtag PGA to conform to us, cause we're great for the game. So say what you're gonna say. He'll play like he's gonna play. And the one with the best game will win the trophy on Sunday.
Paige Sporanic, she just don't know, yo. Takes skill to beat DeChambeau, yep, DeChambeau. Everybody pro DeChambeau.
Welcome back, everybody. I would love to hear you all tell us what you thought about the music video and what we can improve on, because we are not going to stop doing them. We do them to make smiles, like we say all the time.
Yeah.
And, Mikey and Coach Rusty, they all had a blast doing it. The young Bryson in the video was cute as a button.
Totally.
So we're going to wrap it up. I know there was a lot of back and forth in that. And the moral of the story for this episode, right, the part one, is that the golf industry, the golf world is changing, right? The culture is shifting. Things are becoming more showy. It's more entertaining. And honestly, we think that it's really, really healthy for the sport as a whole. We're going to cover in the next part how the golf business needs to react, needs to adapt in order to capitalize on all of this stuff, and what role we can play in kind of expanding on it, being a catalyst for it to help it grow even faster. And before we go, I know Joe's got a burning question here for everybody.
Absolutely. I wanted to go with, because you keep talking about the WWE. I was going to say, you know what, Drew, who do you think wins in a cage fight between Mikey and Paige Sporanic? But I think that's obvious, right?
Yeah.
Paige for sure. Yeah. Mikey loses big time. But all right, a golf match between Mikey and Paige Sporanic, and they hit from the same tees.
Ooh, they hit. Well, are they hitting from the forward tees or the back tees?
We'll say the middle tees.
The middle tees will make a meet in the middle. Any other stipulations? I know you're a big rule setter, so is anyone getting mulligans?
No, nothing like that. Actually, I'll throw this. I'll caddy for Mikey, and you know what? I could probably throw a couple things in there to make her melt down, just as a little tidbit.
Yeah, but we'll have Brooks caddy for her.
Yeah, that's
true. And then he's going to stare you down, keep you off to the back.
That's true.
I am going to go with Paige on the golf match only because we know how big of a quitter Mikey tends to be.
I agree with that too, but I'm going to go with you, Mikey, because I think that I could motivate you and guilt you and actually shame you to keep your focus.
You could keep the blinders on him.
I think so. I think so. Cool.
Yeah.
Hey, last question.
I mean, if we're talking same tees, I don't even think it's a match, dude. I think I'm busting it up by the green with the flip wedge all day. Just a flip wedge into a par 5. Build a super Walmart between him and I.
That's another thing. I'm going to play the song
Dude,
on repeat
on
all the way
Yeah,
around.
exactly.
Yeah, no doubt. Then Mikey will get bludgeoned to death, and so will I. All right, so last question. This is filmed before the U.S. Open. Don't know if it'll be out before there. Mikey, who do you have winning the U.S. Open?
So Torrey Pines, you know what? I'll just throw it out there. Colin Morikawa, why not? I think
there you go, the Berkeley kid. Yeah, I like that.
And he's a California kid, right? He went to Cal, Berkeley?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Drew?
I think that's the only Berkeley there really is worth mentioning.
Yeah.
Man, I'm gonna have to go with Spieth. You know, I'd like to see it. I know he was starting to mount a comeback a little while ago, and then it kind of, fizzled. So, with the way that Phil came out of left field in the last big major, I'd love to see it happen again here.
Yeah, no doubt. Phil definitely was a little bizarre, but hey, good for him.
Yeah.
He played really good. I'm going to go with, I was going to say DeChambeau, but it's a little cheesy. I'm going to go with Patrick Cantlay.
Okay.
I don't know why, just feeling it, name came to my head. So, but go to Caesars, everyone bet it online, big Patrick Cantlay.
Yeah.
I should probably check and see if he's playing. But
Yeah.
But there you have it, folks. Thanks for tuning in, and go ahead and share any comments, questions. Give us a call. You know what I mean? If you ever want to come on the show and actually just dial in and actually ask some questions, we definitely appreciate you and hope we made you smile.
From the T to the green and the P to the B. Skip the plumb bob, drop the plumb bob, lose the plumb bob. Who needs a plumb bob? From the T to the green and the P to the B.